After the Galaxy S22 Ultra, Samsung clearly had their work cut out for them. Not that the S22 Ultra was a bad phone or anything like that, it was and still is really good, but there was plenty of room for improvement. Enter the Galaxy S23 Ultra. Very familiar in a lot of ways, but different in some very important ones. To me, it's the best all-around phone on the market right now, and well, in my opinion, this thing is dang near perfect. Simply put, the S23 Ultra takes the S22 Ultra formula and builds on it, upgrading where necessary and leaving the rest mostly untouched, which to me isn't a bad thing. They played it safe, and I think that was the right play to make. Sure, the phone looks the same, it's not anything particularly special, you could even consider it boring, but that doesn't take away from how well it's made and how premium it is. Yeah, we've seen this before, but it is a better phone. They flattened the sides, giving the phone a boxier feel, which I like. It's easier to hang on to, the rings around the cameras are larger, the display even has less dramatic curves, which is interesting because at this point that tells me they might as well have just flattened the display entirely. All this does is continue to make screen protectors a no-go. Oh well. But the screen is S tier as usual, basically the same one as last year's minus those curves of course. The bezels are a tiny bit thicker, and it's protected by Gorilla Glass Victus 2 this time around. It's one of the best, if not the best display in a smartphone at the moment. It looks great even on 1080p, which is enabled by default. The ultrasonic fingerprint scanner works as good as ever. The haptics are still on the softer side of things, but I know a lot of users prefer that. They're still quality though. The buttons are nice and clicky, and I'm still not a fan of the placement of them. Personally, I still feel that the volume rocker is pretty high up on the side, and I always prefer volume and power buttons to be on opposite sides of the phone, but again, oh well. The stereo speakers sound good. I'm not an audio professional or anything, but I do think they're some of the best on a phone. They're well balanced and they get nice and loud. Alright, when it comes to performance, this is where we begin to see more of those significant differences. Exynos has been completely tossed out of the window, and now we're looking at just the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chip, and a custom Galaxy version at that. Now you probably wouldn't notice a huge difference. I mean, one of the cores has a higher clock speed, but either way, this is big for those outside of the US. The 8 Gen 2 has already proven to be a great processor with its power and efficiency, and the phone absolutely flies. It performs great, as it should, and for you gamers out there, just know that the phone has you covered, regardless of what games you throw at it. Under heavy load, the phone did get a little warm, but nothing alarming. It's normal, and I never experienced any overheating. One of the most impressive things about performance and about the phone in general has been battery life. Now, depending on your use, you're looking at a 2-day battery here. Again, it's thanks to that 8 Gen 2 processor and how efficient it is. And this has the same size battery as the 22 Ultra, but things are better optimized, making battery performance far more reliable. In my testing, I've been able to get over 9 hours of screen on time with heavy use, no problem. On average, I get around 7 to 8, but with moderate, more realistic day-to-day use, I can easily get a day and a half on a single charge. Standby times have been good too. I lost maybe 6 to 7% overnight, and even less, around 1 to 2% without always on display enabled. So whether you're a power user or a light casual user, I'm confident in saying that you'll experience very good results either way. This is some of the best battery life in a phone at the moment. So far, it's not exactly easy taking this thing down. I do wish that the phone had faster charging speeds though, especially at $1,200. I'd expect more considering what other phones offer. I'm coming off of using the OnePlus 11, and being able to charge from 0 to 100% in half an hour is pretty game changing. 45 watts isn't painfully slow, and it helps that battery life is great, but this is a genuine letdown for me. For a phone with the name Ultra, Samsung really could have and should have stepped it up here. Plus, it can be a headache trying to make sure I have a wall adapter that'll charge the phone at full speed on hand. But it's always great having the convenience and flexibility of wireless charging. Huge thanks to Spigen for sponsoring this video. They've got the world's first Samsung certified super fast wireless charger, the ArcField. It charges the S23 at its max rate of 15 watts. It's Qi certified, so it can charge other compatible devices at their respective optimal speed, and there's plenty of protection against things like overheating, overcharging, and short circuiting. Pairing this with their ArcStation Super Mini wall charger makes for a great speedy combo, and for keeping your phone juiced up on the go, check out their powerful ArcStation car charger. Links to everything are down below. Thanks again to Spigen for sponsoring this video. When it comes to the cameras, this is another area where more differences are seen. As usual, you're looking at what I consider to be the most versatile camera experience, from lenses to the loaded camera app. Unfortunately, shutter lag is still a thing. I know that might be an issue for some users, so keep that in mind, and low light photography does still need some work. Now we're looking at a 200 megapixel main lens this year. Yeah, that's insane. Now you won't be snapping pics at 200 megapixels out of the box, you'll have to enable that yourself. There are 12 megapixel binned shots by default. While the detail is pretty awesome, and you'll really be able to punch in and retain that detail better this way, I mostly gravitated towards the default 12 megapixel mode and even the 50 megapixel mode, which I think is a good sweet spot. In the 200 megapixel mode, not only can the colors be a little off sometimes, but the shutter delay is more significant. The image file sizes are pretty big, like 20 to 40 megabytes each depending on the shot. They also take a little longer to process, which makes sense, it's a larger photo. So personally, I would use the 200 megapixel mode for very specific situations and photos. Selfies are solid too, provided you're in good lighting conditions. I don't take selfies, so I wasn't worried about this too much, but they're good. They seem better this year. There's a shortcut to download Expert RAW, which gets you wider dynamic range, way more control, and a baked-in shortcut to import directly to Adobe Lightroom, which is awesome. Video stabilization is wildly good. It's very impressive, and this is the closest I've seen to a gimbal without the actual gimbal. And the zoom options you get are great too. I went to a Mavs game, I was perched pretty far away from the court, but the zoom and stabilization helped me snap some good shots and grab a couple usable video clips. It's good stuff. Android 13 and One UI 5.1 have been very good. Tons of features, as we know, and shout out to that Good Luck application. You pair all of these with that processor, super fast UFS 4.0 storage, and the daily flow of this phone is beyond a breeze. Things are very well optimized. Samsung's software update promises are still pretty much the best we have on any Android device at the moment, so that adds to the long-term experience too. Speaking of storage, it's nice to see the base model start with 256 gigabytes this time around instead of 128. And as for the phone, you know, being a phone, I have no complaints. Calls were crisp and clear from both ends, and I didn't experience any signal issues or anything like that. As sad as I am to say, over the years I've found myself using the S Pen less and less, but that doesn't make this thing any less awesome, useful, and nice to have. For when I do need it, it's there, and for when I don't, it's out of sight, out of mind. I love the fact that Samsung kept it around in the S series when they retired the Note line, so whether you're a longtime Note or S series fan, it all works out. To me, this doesn't really make the phone, but you better believe it enhances the heck out of the user experience like no other phone accessory. Just like last year's entry, this is the best all-around phone on the market. The S22 Ultra walked so the S23 Ultra could run. There are phones out there that do certain individual things better than this one, but from top to bottom, you're not going to find a more well-rounded option. The things this phone can do from both software and hardware perspectives make up a list longer than a CVS pharmacy receipt. Now this unit here is actually a loaner device, and now I want to go grab one for myself. Call me crazy, but like I said, although this isn't a perfect phone, it's incredibly close to it, and I think it's the closest we have on the market so far. We used to cook up dream phones like this years and years ago, but I get it, this phone isn't for everyone. It's a huge device, you may not be a fan of One UI, and it's pretty costly. Plus, phones that cost half as much are getting so incredibly good now. But if you're eyeing the top of the food chain, looking for the do-it-all option, wondering if there were ever a phone worth over $1,000, look no further. What do you think of the Galaxy S23 Ultra? Let's talk about it in the comments, and while you're down there, since you made it to this point of the video, drop a ninja emoji for this stealthy beast of a phone. Hope you enjoyed. It's been Zach, and thanks for watching.